Welcome to the speaking section of the IELTS exam. My name is Adrian. I will be your examiner for this part of the test. The speaking has 3 parts. I will give you instructions for each. May I see your identification?
Yes, of course. Here is my passport that I use for registration. Please take a look at it.
What is your full name?
My full name is Denisa. Please call me by my first name, Denisa.
Okay, Denisa. For part 1, I will ask you a couple of questions to get to know you better and some questions on a general topic. What do you like doing in your free time?
In my free time, I usually read and draw, or I just go on walks.
Where do you go to relax?
I usually go to relax in nature with my friends or just walking my dog. I just went on a walk before this interview.
And where do you live?
I live in Romania, in a small city called Caransebeș.
For part 1, let's talk about hobbies. What are your favorite hobbies?
I have 3 main hobbies, which are reading, drawing, and painting.
How did you first become interested in these hobbies?
I first became interested in reading when I was in middle school, and I've just been reading ever since. And I started drawing and painting when I was a toddler.
How often do you engage in your hobbies?
I read about 20 pages of any book each day, but unfortunately, I don't have time to draw anymore, so I only do that about twice a month.
Do you prefer to do these hobbies alone or with others?
I would rather do my hobbies alone because I need a quiet space in order to concentrate.
Have your hobbies changed over the years?
My hobbies have not changed over the years, but my skills have definitely improved. I am certainly better at drawing than I was 1 year ago.
Let's talk a bit more about travel. Do you enjoy traveling?
Yes, I do enjoy traveling a lot. I just came back from a vacation a few weeks ago, and I think that's the most fun part about summer.
What is your favorite place that you have visited?
My favorite place that I have visited is Budapest, the capital of Hungary. I went there with my father 1 year ago and also 2 years ago. We go there every year.
How do you usually travel when you go on a trip?
I usually travel by car because I enjoy long car rides, but planes are also amazing.
Are there any places you would like to visit in the future?
Yes, of course. I dream about visiting the United States the most.
Why is that?
I would love to see Los Angeles and just California in general.
Do you prefer to travel to cities or countryside areas, and why?
I would rather travel to cities because I always want to see popular landmarks and museums. And I just think you learn the most about the country when you go to a popular city.
That is the end of part 1. We will now continue with part 2. For this part, I will show you some questions. You will see these in a minute. You will have 1 minute to review these questions, and then you will have 1 to 2 minutes to speak. You can take notes in the 1 minute preparation time if you wish. Is that clear?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, then talk about software that you often use. Your 1 minute preparation time begins now. Need some help mastering English to speak like Denisa? Again, we have partnered with Cambly. They are now offering a free speaking quiz just for you to improve for your next IELTS speaking exam. Here's what you need to know. Cambly is a 24/7 platform and app that lets you learn English
anywhere and anytime from native English-speaking tutors. It is guided by your goals. If you want to succeed on your IELTS exam, that's just what they'll help you do. And this free speaking quiz is the guide to get you there. Cambly's cutting-edge, state-of-the-art new speaking test is not only free, but also uses the latest AI technology to measure and accurately evaluate your strengths and weaknesses. I was amazed when I tried the speaking. It was so well done. It wasn't just a simple multiple choice. It really gave me detailed insights on my strengths using professional vocabulary and grammar to reach an advanced speaking level. I highly recommend going through this free test before you sit your next IELTS exam. Here's what you need to do. Simply click this link in the video description below to go right to Cambly's free speaking quiz. Follow the instructions, play the audio, give your response, and like magic, the AI will accurately assess and give you feedback. Use Cambly every day to make improvements so that you too can reach these high IELTS band scores. Now, back to the rest of the interview with Denisa and the feedback.
Denisa, your 1-minute preparation time is up. Please begin speaking.
I'm going to talk about a software that I often use, which is Microsoft 365. The subscription for Microsoft 365 family costs about $100 per year, and you can share it with up to 6 people in your household. You get access to Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and a few other Microsoft programs, as well as 1 terabyte of OneDrive storage. I personally use Microsoft 365 for PowerPoint because both me and my mother do animated videos on PowerPoint. She is a teacher and she does that in order to teach her lessons. I also use it for school projects and other personal projects that I have. There is a new feature in PowerPoint called Copilot that helps you with suggesting ideas on a specific topic, or it can turn a Word file into a presentation. Another thing that I like so much about PowerPoint is that there are so many tutorials available on the internet, and it is so easy to work with it. Given the chance, I would probably drop the price a little for students, but there is also a free alternative to PowerPoint. It's called Canva, and that is also a good application.
Okay, your 2 minutes is up. I will stop you there. Please put the note paper to the side, turn it over, and put the pencil to the side, and we will now continue with part 3. For this part, I will ask you questions related to the topic of part 2. Let's talk about software. How important is it for people to stay updated with the latest software developments?
I think it is very important for people to stay updated with the latest software developments because they come with new features, bugs that are fixed, and they are obviously more secure than they were before.
Why do you think keeping software up to date is crucial?
I think it is crucial because an outdated software is an easy target for hackers, and that's why it's important to update it once in a while.
What are some common issues people might face with using software, and how can they be addressed?
I think the most common problems that people face when using software are slow performance, network issues, and just uh, losses of files. And these problems can be fixed by buying a new computer or updating your software.
Do you think there is a significant difference between using software for personal versus professional purposes?
Yes, I definitely think there is a huge difference between using software for personal purposes and using it for professional purposes. When you are using a software for professional purposes, it has to be perfect. You have to pay attention to all of the mistakes that you could have made. The presentations have to be uh, engaging, and every essay needs to be just perfect. When you are working for yourself, you just need to get your job done and not pay so much attention to details.
How do the requirements or expectations differ between personal and professional use?
I think they are very different because, as I mentioned before, when you are using a software for professional purposes, everything has to be perfect. People are expecting a great essay, a great document, or presentation. But if you do it just for yourself, there's no one to disappoint.
Are there any specific features that you believe are essential for software to be effective and user friendly?
Yes, definitely. I think the most important feature is security and privacy in every software, as well as being able to report a problem.
What impact do you think software has on productivity and efficiency in the workplace or at school?
I think software has made people in school a bit lazier than they were before, but in the workplace, it is so great for keeping all the files in one place instead of having a bunch of papers that you might lose.
Can you provide examples of how software has helped or hindered productivity?
I think programs like ChatGPT have made teenagers just less productive. They don't do essays or projects on their own anymore. They simply type what the theme is on a program like ChatGPT and it just gets done for them. But also for people who work in an office, softwares are very helpful for them.
What are the potential consequences of excessive reliance on technology?
I think over-relying on technology is very dangerous, and the worst consequence is that people lose their critical thinking skills. They are just too lazy to do calculations, essays, and any kind of project on their own.
How do you decide which software to use for different tasks or projects?
Whenever I have to do a project, I just look at the requirements and that's how I choose my software. For example, I am not going to do an essay in PowerPoint. I will just do it in Word.
In what ways can software developers ensure their products meet the needs and explanations of their users?
I think the best way for software developers to tell if their clients are satisfied with their products is by looking at numbers. If their clients keep buying the product, for example, if it's a monthly subscription, then they are definitely satisfied. But if a big number of people give up on that subscription, they need to look at what they're doing wrong.
How important is user feedback in the development process?
I think user feedback is very important in the process of developing a software because it can be considered constructive criticism. Uh, Developers need to look at what they're doing wrong or the bugs that people face when using their program and they need to fix it in order not to lose their clients.
Okay, that is the end of part 3. That concludes the speaking section of the IELTS exam. You will have your mark for this in about 2 days online, as long as you have finished the other sections, and your official certificate should be in the mail in 10 days. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Denisa, I would like to give you feedback on that speaking interview. First of all, your overall band score is certainly in the 8.5 to 9 range. This is what IELTS considers a very good to expert user of the English language, and I'll clearly explain why. So you're very fluent. You definitely would get 9, even though you slow your speech sometimes and you kind of stop to think of what you're going to say. That's still considered fluent because you're thinking about content. You're not thinking about vocabulary. It's very obvious to the examiner that high-level vocabulary comes to you quite naturally and quite easily. Your grammatical range and accuracy is also outstanding. You're using past perfect, present perfect, progressive forms, conditional forms, various conditional forms. I think you used even reported speech a few times, and just very dynamically throughout the entire discussion. Your pronunciation is a band 9. I mean, you clearly have a little bit of a, like, let's say Romanian accent, but it's subtle. It's very easy to listen to your English. I don't have to spend any energy trying to figure out what the word is that you're trying to say. To me, it's just another natural form of English. There are many natural forms of English around the world now, and that could be with accent. So you have a very thin and a very pleasant accent, I think. Your vocabulary is also outstanding. So you use a combination of very precise words, like when you said in part 3, over relying instead of excessive reliance. So your brain just kind of naturally captures even advanced collocations and paraphrases them with other words, which is really good. And then you switch between that and colloquial expressions like software has helped workers avoid a bunch of paperwork. And it's like a bunch of paperwork. It's just very natural English that you would hear in an office space, and you use that. So it's quite amazing. And so your overall band score would, again, just be a band 8.5 to 9, no question, depending on the examiner. That's just kind of more of a up to luck at that point, who it is and how confident they are in giving you that score. There are always places to improve. Before I talk about that, one point I want to highlight to everybody watching the video is that one of your greatest strengths is using the question in your answers. You grab the question, you grab the grammar of the question, and then you immediately reflect that. So have your hobbies changed over the years? Yes, they have. They have changed in a couple of different ways. So you're very good at using that grammar and that question in your answer, and that I recommend that for everybody. By the way, everyone, you can learn that in our program on our website at AEHelp.com. We have over 120 speaking interview samples like this one for you in the premium package, and you can use the code REACH9. You're going to see this on your screen to get a 10% discount. Okay, I like to be critical, and I always like to give some form of valuable feedback, even if it's not necessarily for the IELTS to get that band 8 or band 9. Certainly it will help, but even just for professional life. Make sure that you practice controlling the pronoun you in your conversation. So there are a couple of words that we want to control when we speak at the highest level. One of those is you. In everyday conversation, we do that often to grab the attention of the listener. So, for example, in part 1, when I asked you, do you prefer to travel to cities or the countryside? And you answered, you said, when you travel to big cities, you get to really know the culture. And I know you're not really talking about me, but in my head, I can be thinking, well, I like to go to nature and the countryside. I like ecotourism. So why are you telling me this? Like I should go, right? So brings up that kind of
Yes.
weird feeling a little bit. So if you want to avoid that in the workplace or in university, you should always realize like, okay, I'm not talking about the listeners, so I should say people or tourists or travelers, right? Instead of you. So just be very cautious about that. I think you used it in part 2 and part 3 as well. So learn, yeah, you said so that you don't lose data when we were talking about part 3, and you said you can store you can use software to store information instead of a bunch of papers so you don't lose information. And it's like, are you telling me I'm losing information? Right,
Yes.
so you want to control that you. The other words to control are thing and stuff, but you're good at not using those. So that was again just a really Part 2 was really well structured. I thought that was really great as well. Like you had a really good delivery of the content. Do you have any questions about, like what to pay attention to in IELTS, or how to improve English, or where to go to university in California? Anything like that?
I think getting to university in California would be impossible, but I would love to hear your recommendations.
Well, firstly, I'd like to say that I don't think it's impossible at all, especially not for a person like you who has these English skills. You're ambitious. There are a lot of opportunities for schools. So there's Big U in California. There are a lot of famous universities. Reach for the stars. So apply to those universities, apply for scholarships, apply for bursaries within your country and at those universities. So keep in mind that it's not just the scholarships and bursaries in Romania that can support your studies in California, but even the schools there can also support your studies. I definitely don't think that dream is out of your reach. So as long as you're taking the necessary steps, then I'm sure you will get there. Okay. One question I would love to ask you, Denisa, is how did you learn English? I'm sure a lot of our viewers are curious what they need to do to speak English as well as you. So can you give me a little bit of background on that?
Of course, I started learning English when I was in kindergarten, but I never actually learned English from school. I just learned English by listening to music, translating the lyrics, and eventually I started watching movies with English subtitles. So that's how I got to this level. And also, everything that I watch on any social media platform is just in English. Or whenever I look at videos on YouTube, I just watch them in English. I never watch anything in Romanian. So I got to the point where I kind of think in English and I speak in my head all the time in English. And sometimes it's hard to translate words from English to Romanian.
It's interesting. You kind of answered my question, because as you were saying that, I was thinking, well, okay, you're listening to a lot of English and you're watching a lot of English, but how do you change that into actual speaking? And then you said, well, I'm speaking in my head in English and thinking in my head in English. Have you had a lot of opportunities to speak to other people in English, like native English speakers or speaking partners or any other point of contact?
No, I rarely speak in English out loud. I just speak in Romanian all the time at home, and I speak a little English when I go in another country, but that's not enough for practice.
Well, quite incredible. I'll be perfectly honest with you. I mean, it takes a special kind of thinking to get to that level, for sure. Nonetheless, I
Thank
think
you.
that's great advice for everybody, is to immerse yourselves in English as much as possible until you get to that point where you're almost no longer translating between the languages. Do you read in English as well? You said it's one of your hobbies. So is that something that you do in Romanian more, or in English?
No, I read in Romanian more because there are so many books that I'm trying to finish, and I just don't have time to start reading in English too yet.
Okay, fair enough. Well, thank you for sharing that valuable information. And I think it's good also because a lot of people are worried that if they can't speak to native English speakers, they're not able to reach a high level of English. And I don't think that's the case. I think it is possible because there's just so much English content in the world today. So I appreciate you for sharing that. Thank
Yes.
you. You have nothing to worry about on your IELTS exam. I'm sure you will do great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And follow up with us. Let us know how your studies are going, okay?
Yes.
Subscribe to our channel. Click over here. Watch another video. Click right up here. And click our IELTS Hero to join our premium package and get access to all of our videos, practice exams, and a fully interactive course.